Alright, hey YouTube. I'm here at my desk. I was actually going to do this in the garage, but it's a little cold out there today, so I would rather stay warm, keep my fingers dexterous while I'm talking about knives, and going to go through and sharpen a couple of these for you. One of the things that I actually wanted to bring up was the sheer number of different sharpeners I've used over the years. One of them being the Work Sharp. It's got that belt on it. While it does have some pretty decent uses as far as knife sharpening goes, I found that it has a pretty big drawback. So when I had mine, I used it a couple of times and tried to figure out what adjustments it needed, and it turned out that it's not really that it needed adjustments. It just was the way it was. And I'll show you what happened on my smoke jumper. You can see the grind on my smoke jumper. Looks good on this side, but it's much larger on this side. No matter what I did using the Work Sharp, that's the result that I always got. And I didn't like it, so I ended up pitching the thing. I believe I gave it away to somebody because a lot of my knives were thick, and I'm wondering if that might have been the issue. The thickness of the blades overall being the problem, but I don't know. It made it to where I really didn't want to even try to get used to it. So what I've always stuck with was a manual type sharpener. A couple of Smiths that I have that are diamond sharpeners. They seem to work really well. But my old standby, yeah, I actually went and got more hose clamps for my survival kit. But however, the old standby that has always worked very well for me is the Arkansas Tri-Hone. For whatever reason, this has been my go-to for well over 20 years. I actually ended up getting this one from Knife Factory Outlet in Prescott Valley long before they closed down. And I don't remember what I paid for it at the time, but this has literally sharpened hundreds of blades, and you can see the stones are still in pretty good shape. I mean, yeah, I could probably clean them a little bit, but other than that, this has been my absolute go-to as far as knife sharpening. I'll get to using this very soon. I'm going to show you some of the blades that I'm going to go ahead and sharpen today. I'm not going to sharpen all of these, but I'll go through some of them. This one I'm going to work on the edge. I had it put away for quite some time, so this is definitely one that's going to get an edge working. This one came in the battle box. This is a Utica. It's the UTK S4. I don't really use this blade much. It's in the collection. It has had its uses here and there, but I don't find myself reaching for it very often. One of the reasons is the sheath is really loose, so carrying it around, it kind of rattles a little bit, so it kind of stays here on my desk out of the way, and if I happen to need a knife, yeah, I'll grab it. But yeah, that's it. Cold Steel Bushman. This one, it doesn't need any work on the edge. This thing's plenty sharp. It's, I don't know if you guys remember back in the day, probably when I first started with YouTube and doing the knife reviews, Cold Steel sent this to me along with the Pocket Bushman, and I was actually impressed with this blade. This is one that stays in one of my backpacks, and as far as a down and dirty survival blade, being able to haft this to a pole to give you a little bit extra reach for a spear, I actually like this. The Saguaro survival knife, you see I've got it to where I can shoulder it. That's kind of the way I prefer to carry some of my blades. It's the design of the sheath that I came up with years ago, and it seems that after I did a video on it, some other knife companies jumped on the idea to make sheaths that you can shoulder your knife. That's neither here nor there, but this one I might go ahead and touch up the edge a little bit. It doesn't really need it, but I'm gonna throw it on the stone anyways. I'm absolutely proud of my Saguaro survival knife, and this actually stays where I can get to it and use it whenever I need it. Again, with the shoulder strap, you guys saw the video that I did on the survival kit with the addition of the pouch on the sheath, and this is exactly what I wanted when I thought of this sheath design. I wanted something that you could put a survival kit in, and while I can still work leather like this, I'm still not quite as good as I should be at being able to put pouches on sheaths. I'll get there one day. Lately, I haven't had a lot of time to really work on my leather skills, but I've got to pick up some more snaps, copper rivets. I want to get some more black thread, and when that happens, I will start doing some more sheaths and get out there. And there's a few knives I want to get leather sheaths made for. I've also got a few firearms that I want to try my hand at making holsters, so we'll see what happens there. This is the SPCSE. Doesn't really also need any edge work. This thing is perfectly sharp. I'm probably not going to sharpen this one. And keep in mind, this is also not all the knives that I have. This is that Gerber axe thing. I'm also not going to sharpen it. These are all laying here because I went through a 40mm ammo can, and I'm repurposing the ammo can for its intended purpose. I'm going to be putting more ammo in there. We've gotten to the point to where we've got some ammo overflow and I need another ammo box. So the 40mm will be used for that, and the knives are going to get another location. These are the SEMAs. These are SEMA knives. The T601, which is weird because these are clearly made differently. One's thicker than the other. Handle material's different. However, they have the same model number. But these are made out of AUS 8 steel. They also don't really need any work done on the edge, so these are going to be set aside. I'm going to be doing sheaths for these. I want to do some leather sheaths for both of these blades. This is an example of the sheath that they came in. It's garbage. As soon as I get the leather sheaths done for these, I'm pitching these. These are horrid. It's a creation of some kind of demonic mind that just, they're no good. You can see this blade here, it goes in and it wants to poke right out the bottom. You can see that. These are just, they're not even lined. So these are definitely getting pitched. This is the Bush Maiden that was done by Pro Tool. I might go ahead and work on the edge. This needs, they messed up so bad on these blades that I really need to take some time to work on them. So that being the case, I'm gonna do a leather sheath for this one, but I'm really gonna try to work this edge out. I don't know how good it'll end up being, but when I do that, it's gonna be such an undertaking that it's gonna take a lot of time. This is the cold steel kukri. We're all familiar with this. This is one that I'm also going to be making a leather sheath for. I like this particular knife. It's inexpensive. I wouldn't use the word cheap because it's not cheap. It's inexpensive. It's 1/8 inch thick, and much like my Ontario machetes, this thing has stood up to some serious abuse. It's one that once I get the leather sheath made for it, I'm going to hook it up to be shouldered just like these other two. I think that'll be a good direction to go. I had 2 of these, but my friend Jake Wilson ended up with the other. This is the Condor Speed Bowie. It came in a nice leather sheath. I was actually really happy with the sheath itself. And this was designed by Joe Flowers, and he did a good job. This is a really good knife. It doesn't have a sheath, but it will have. I'm probably going to do a leather sheath for this one as well. I'm not sure if I'll make it a shoulder carry. We'll see what happens as time goes on. I repurposed the sheath for my Apache Bolo that my friend Mikhail made for me. So that's where that sheath went. It fits perfect. It's where that knife will stay until I decide to go ahead and do a leather sheath for it. Okay, so this one is going to get some edge work. This knife is actually really rare. It's the Columbia River Knife and Tool M60. I'm gonna clean this crap off the handle. It's kind of where the buttons kind of bled off, and just with a lot of age, it just kind of marred up the handle a little bit. They're not messed up, they're just discolored. So I'm gonna fix that. And this was one of the, I believe it was the second or third knife that I actually started using when I started YouTube. It's partially serrated, and I still like partially serrated blades, although I don't prefer them. These partial serrations chew notches like nothing else. It's a really quick way to chew notches into fireboards and things like that. So it was an addition to a blade that I didn't mind. This is also a chisel grind. It's only got an edge bevel on one side, you can see. So I'm going to run this over the sharpener and see if I can't bring back some of the sharpness of this blade. It's got a bit of an edge. It's still sharp, but we're going to make it better. Another one I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of edge work on is my lighter bro. The little blade on here is getting quite dull. I find myself using this more than anything that I have. You can even see it's getting a patina on it that's just out of this world. This came in the battle box a while back, and this is probably my most used item out of that. especially since I started smoking again. However, carrying something like this at work comes in really handy, because they don't really like me to carry larger knives, and even some of the folders are frowned upon. So something like this, I'm able to open the box real quick. So this is a really good little tool. All right, so I'm back with the Arkansas Tri-Hone, and I'm actually running out of this solution. This is a honing solution that I'm actually going to try to find more of, because this works better than water, and it's not oil. I don't use oil on my stones, because as soon as you do, you have to keep using oil. You can't switch back and forth between oil and water. And if I was in a situation where I didn't have this, I could revert to using water on these stones by using this. So I basically just add a drop, a little bit more than a drop, and I'll take my finger, get it over the stone. And if you remember, get my rag here because I'm going to need that. And if you remember previously, I had done some videos on sharpening knives. I did a demonstration on how to get a hair popping edge. This is the stone I was using. Of course, I did videos on sharpening using other methods, but this is probably one that I'm going to stick with. I've got another video that I've got planned where I'm going to be talking about some of the Smith sharpeners, but that'll be a little bit later. And for now, we'll focus on this one. And I'm going to use the M60 at first, and I'm just going to line it up just past the serrations. And what I'm doing is I'm feeling for that bevel, and I can actually see a shadow underneath the blade, and I can tell right when I'm in the right position, because it'll mesh real flat with the edge of the surface of the stone, and feeling for that edge right there. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to keep it at one angle, and I'm going to do about 5 passes. Wipe that off, and you notice I did not do this edge yet. I'm going to do that last, because I want to be able to keep that fine line on the blade. And if I was to follow all the way through, you're going to destroy that dividing line with the 2 edges. And I don't want that. There we go. Oh yeah, already there's a hell of a difference. So to do this tip, I'm going to do the same thing. Eyes aren't what they used to be, but this is just going to require a straight motion with even pressure, just like that. 5, 6, however many, doesn't matter. Yeah, that's working really good so far. And you can see I'm keeping this dividing line right here. And if you want to, you can come in at an angle and just kind of drag it across the stone. That even works. You don't have to go perfectly straight, but use the entire stone. A lot of times you can tell you're doing this correctly because the water or the solution that you put on the stone will actually come up over the edge. It tells you that you are at the right angle. I actually sit there and sharpen knives just for the therapeutic nature of it. Even the sound of sharpening a knife is therapeutic to me. Get that tip, that leading edge there. I actually really like tanto blades. It's one of the reasons I pulled this knife back out. I wanna put this on one of my rigs, or it'll be one that I carry because it is a drop leg sheath. Oh yeah, definitely. Okay, so I'm gonna wipe this off, roll it over to the fine stone. And I'm going to do the same thing. The finer the stone, the more fine you'll be able to get your edge. I find I don't have to use the coarse stone on this setup very often. Now, if I do a lot of heavy blade damage or something like that, I will use the coarse stone to work out any nicks or chips that end up on the blade. That's really the only reason I use it. You know, a lot of people may start with the coarse stone and work their way down to the fine, which it's perfectly okay to do that. There's no wrong way to do this as long as you can shave with it when you're done. There will be a stropping process after this, but I'll have to set my stuff up to do that, so there'll be a cut in the video when I get these blades done. And that may actually be another video, because I've got to go down to the garage. I gotta grab all the stuff. I gotta get my compound, and my hook is down there that I hook my strop to, so I've got to bring it up. I'm going to install one on the edge of my desk so that I can actually pull the strop tight and use it properly. So that'll probably end up being another video. Oh yeah, buddy. Yeah, major difference. Major difference. Now, since it is a chisel grind, one thing I will do, since there is a burr that always forms on your blade, which is why you strop them, I'm actually going to take this and I'm going to go the opposite direction, just like this, just very lightly a couple of times. Doesn't need to be any more, and there it is. Nice. That is a good working edge. It shaves. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get to the lighter bro. Going to put an edge on that. This one is going to be so simple. I'm just going to start out with the fine stone. Drag it across. I can already feel the burrs. They're gone. I probably won't even have to strop this little knife, and in fact, I don't think I'm going to, because this gets used so much. There's really no reason to. Yeah, already. That's a huge difference. Up here towards the tip needs a little more work because that's what gets used the most. So I'm going to go ahead and focus more on the tip. Here we go. Yeah, as I'm going, I can feel the difference. Yeah, that's got it. That's a good field edge, and I'm going to leave it at that. It doesn't need to be razor sharp. That's fine. Okay, smoke jumper. This has already got a pretty good edge, but I'm going to start with the medium, go back to it. And you can see I'm not using much of the solution. This has actually lasted me for years, and I've still got a little bit less than half the bottle. This is going to be a little tricky since the work sharp messed up the edge, so I've really got to kind of feel and watch what I'm doing. Eventually I'd like to sharpen it enough to where the edge is restored, but it is what it is. This is one of my favorite knives from Tops, aside from the Fieldcraft knife, that is. You can really tell with this knife, it's just, as I'm going over the stone, it's getting easier and easier. So there was some burrs and other imperfections in the blade. Yeah, that's getting it. That's getting it. I probably could have started with the coarse stone with this blade because this is going to take a little bit longer, but we'll get it done. If I have to cut the time down in editing, I'll do that. But I will let you know how long it actually took to do it. Yeah, that's good. It's definitely getting there. It's not going to take as long as I thought. RC 5658, that's a really good hardness for 1095. It really good edge retention, easy to bring an edge back. Some blades in the past that I've used were hardened up into the 60s, and to me that just makes the edge harder to work. Sometimes certain steels you can get them hardened up into the 60s and it'll be too hard. It actually makes the knife brittle. Like 1095, in my opinion, that's too hard for that steel. Makes it brittle. You can just about flint knap an arrow point with the blade. It's kind of a joke, but makes it really brittle. You can even hear a difference. Yeah, we're getting there. All right, I'm going to switch over to the fine stone. Oop, that was a little much. That was an accident. Too much pooped out of there. Okay. Yeah, again, I can tell from using the medium stone and coming to the fine stone that as soon as I started, there were burrs, some of the striations that the stone itself puts into the blade. The fine stone is actually working those out fairly quickly. You can see here there's a little bit of material on the blade. It's that black sludgy stuff that gets there. That is, in essence, the stone removing material. Yep, there was one. All right. Oh yeah, buddy. Not quite shaving sharp, so we're gonna get this a little bit better. I'm applying even pressure across the blade. Now, I'm not sure if you all remember, but in my circle of friends that we were all part of at the time, the Brothers of Bushcraft and several other people actually had a term for how sharp I get my knives called Arizona Bushman Sharp. And it was absolutely true. It was, I used to get my knives so sharp, but I don't really go that sharp on the edges anymore. Not that it's a bad thing. It's just the amount of time that it takes to do that. Yeah. There it goes. All right. So this one is now done until we get to the stropping section. Saguaro Survival Knife. This one I'm going to keep it on the fine stone because the edge feels okay. It doesn't need any more than that. Just a basic touch up. This is a blade that I am extremely proud of. I'm hoping at some point that I can get this one done again. I would love to see this back out there and people using it. The functionality of this blade is fantastic. In fact, when I restarted my social media, I put a new LinkedIn page up, and Scorpion Knives said that they would like to restart my line. However, I haven't heard anything else. Maybe I'll talk to them, because I think it'd be a good idea to get this one back out there. I even have an updated version of it done on a 3D CAD. Oh yeah, yeah, that's great. Yeah, right there might be a bit of a, yeah, let's do this again. It's just even pressure. A lot of times I found that, say you do 5 on one side, 5 on the other, I mean, that's great, That's more or less if I was going to be doing edge repair. But as far as sharpening goes, 4 on one side, 6 on the other, losing count basically, it doesn't matter. I go by how it feels. And this actually feels really good. So we're going to do a few more. And in order to get a good hair popping edge on a knife, it isn't just your angles, it's not just your pressure. You're actually feeling the vibrations of the stone through the handle. You're listening. What is that steel doing on the stone? There's a lot more to it than just running the blade over the stone. This one took a bit longer because I didn't start with the medium, but like I said, oh yeah, that got that section. Very nice. There it is. Another hair popping edge. Okay, so these are ready to be stropped, and like I said, I'm going to do that in another video. I don't mean to cut this one short, but I figure the sooner I can get done with that video, the better. But I hope you enjoyed this knife sharpening video. I'm going to be doing a lot more of these. In fact, as I get certain things moving, like the sheath making, kydex, whatever the case may be, I'll bring you guys along with that so you can see how I do it. I'll even show you on my first sheath in years so you can see me fumble and screw up. I think people will like that. Also, my wife and I are kind of kicking the idea around of starting to reload ammunition. I got a hold of a new 7mm Remington Magnum. It's a Inner Arms Mark 10, and I'll show that in the next video as well. Maybe not the next, but the one after that. And so you guys can kind of see what I've done to it already. My Glenfield 22, I've done some stuff to it. I'm also going to be going over some more stuff that I've added to my, well, one of my rigs that I put together. I have done some research and found some more stuff to add to that. I think you'll find that interesting. It's common knowledge. I'm not going to take credit for all that stuff being my idea. I just saw some videos, skimmed through them, and found some really good ideas that I think I'd like to pass along. And I'll give the person credit. They're not my ideas, but they're just really good ones. With that, I'll see you soon.